Mark Levin here. After any presidential election, I take time to reevaluate my own financial investments. That's why I continue to invest in gold for help with my financial protection. When it comes to gold, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're a top gold company in America, and that's who I turn to for my own gold purchases. Call them now at 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit. And see if you qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. And tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 8700, whatever. Ladies and gentlemen. Boy, did I miss you folks for a full week. But we're back. We're in the saddle for a long time now. I want to thank all the wonderful hosts who sat in. Those who I know, anyway. Thank you very, very much. And they do a great job. But it's great to be back with you. Super Bowl, for many of you, it was a letdown. For me, it was a high because, as you know, I'm from the Philadelphia area, and I'm a huge Philadelphia sports fan. And I'm a fan of other cities, too, but this one in particular, the Eagles. And for those of us who are Eagle fans, that was a very, very great game. Kansas City, obviously, was a humiliation. I'm sure you're upset, like so many of us were 2 years ago, but like so many are whenever you lose. That's the nature of the beast, isn't it? Everything's on the line, and it's black and white. You either win or you don't. That first call by the refs, I was about to lose my mind, but looks like they called one on Kansas City. There really wasn't an interference or a personal foul, helmet to helmet, so they tried to even it up, and from there on, they were pretty good. But it was a complete blowout, and I'll tell you why it's a blowout. This is now a game of the big men, at least it was in this Super Bowl, the big men, the front lines, and not just the offensive line, the defensive line. I find Tom Brady to actually be an excellent color commentator. I think he started out a little shaky, as people do when they start out in a profession, but he's really good, and he explains things in a way that the greatest quarterback ever, certainly one of them, if not the one, can only explain about how things are set up and what's going through a quarterback's mind. And I just thought it was superb, and those two do a great job. There's others who do a great job, too, but I just find him to be excellent. I don't know him. I'm no special pleader. I'm not kissing butt. I'm just telling you from my perspective. And I think when you have the size of the human beings that the Eagles have on both lines, defense and offense, and keep in mind, these other teams have big players, too, but nothing like this. I mean, these guys, 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", 350, 358, 367 pounds. They're going to beat you down and beat you down. The offensive line for Kansas City, they just blew them out. That is, the defensive line did. And the offensive line for the Eagles were just, they gave, Hurts the time he needs. He's a little slower getting rid of the ball, but he got rid of the ball quickly. The one interception he threw was down, I think, on the 10th or 14th yard line of Kansas City, so it didn't matter that much. Other than that, he was superb. And he was superb, period. Mahomes looked completely rattled. He had no time to do anything. Zero. And I just thought the Eagles really brought it. They were not going to be denied. This hype about 3 in a row and this is the greatest team ever and so forth and so on. When you're my age, you've seen a lot of great teams. It's a great team. Doesn't mean it's the greatest team ever. That is Kansas City. It's a great team. You probably have one of the greatest coaches ever, Andy Reid. But Andy Reid didn't know what to do either. And the reason's simple. What was he going to do? Those lines are too big. And they stopped Barkley. I mean, really did. They were focused on Barkley. So what did the Eagles do? Hurts runs. He's got some of the greatest receivers in the game. They get the ball. His tight end is great. So they have so many tools. And it's amazing how little this team was talked about. Barkley was talked about a lot. Because, look, he's one of the greatest running backs he was this year we've ever seen. But the team itself was not really talked up. You know, everybody's talking about Detroit. Everybody was talking about the Ravens. Everybody's talking about Kansas City and Buffalo. Great teams, by the way. But they weren't talking about the Eagles that way. And I think a part of it was because last year they completely puttered out. It was embarrassing and upsetting. But this year they didn't. They got off to a little bit of a difficult start, and then that was it. They never looked back. And the way that they crushed the Washington Redskins / Commanders, it's hard for me to say Commanders, but Commanders, was a signal, I think, to most people 2 weeks ago that, particularly when you consider how good they are, that is, the Commanders and their quarterback and so forth, I think that was shed a little light on it. I made a prediction. I sent it to our buddy Jesse Waters over there at Fox. I'm sure he mentioned it on the 5, aren't you, Mr. Producer? I said Eagles by 11. Did I say that to you, Rich? I don't remember. Eagles by 11. He said, wow, you're pretty certain of this, aren't you? I said, look, I'm not certain of anything. I just think it's their time. I was way off, right? They won 40-22, and it was worse than 40-22, wasn't it? And this guy's sweet. He was sweet. He is a great veteran. He is a great defensive player. I don't know. I just think man for man, in most of the positions anyway, the Eagles were just stronger. And I think the stadium, I think, was 2/3 full of Eagles fans. Wouldn't you guess, Mr. Boot? I mean, they were cheering Trump and booing, what's her name? Taylor Swift. Yeah. Halftime game, I see some of our friends on ESPN thought it was fantastic, or if you criticize it, there's a racial element to it. No, there's not. Guys sucked. Guys suck. There's hip-hop that's good. I'm not a hip-hop guy, but I like a lot of different kinds of music. This guy sucked, in my humble opinion. And I suspect in the opinion of a lot of viewers. I think these guys at the NFL, the highest offices in New York, I think they want to be cool. They want to be hip. They're not cool. They're not hip. They're way overpaid. They sit on their ass. They got nothing to do. That's my opinion. Just my opinion. And that's that. I'm done. But we will have our buddy Stephen A. on the top of the next hour for a segment. He was all over it. He was watching. Good man. Now down to business. We're going to have I interviewed Donald Trump just about a couple hours ago. We're going to have that at the bottom of the hour for you. It is the first interview he's done on radio since becoming president the second time, so it's an exclusive. He's been doing so much work, so much activity. I don't know how he does it, honestly. None of us do, really. But I want to read a quote to you. Because we now know that a lot of the media have been on the take. A lot of the media have been feeding at the public trough. We've been subsidizing the media through our government. Politico, some of the others. It's really disgusting. It's shocking. They should close shop, those that were caught anyway. When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, let me repeat. When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it, a legal system that authorizes it, and a moral code that glorifies it. Is that not the most brilliant one sentence you've ever heard? Let me repeat it, and then I'll tell you the source. When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. That's what you're watching today, right now in Washington, D.C. Everybody who's feeding from the public trough, but particularly the power brokers in Washington, the Democrat Party, the unions for the bureaucrats, the media, that really is a subsidy of the federal government in so many ways. What would they be reporting if there wasn't a massive federal government anyway? These people have created for themselves a legal system. You see these judges? I'm getting into this. That authorizes it. They claim that the Constitution compels corruption. The Constitution compels graft. The Constitution compels stealing your tax dollars and subsidizing people who hate you, subsidizing perversion, subsidizing in other countries, that somehow it is constitutionally compelled. And if you challenge it, if you even want to conduct audits to investigate it, that somehow you're the one destroying the United States Constitution. If you want to get spending under control and the bureaucracy under control, you're destroying the United States Constitution. You're a threat to humanity. Again, you're a threat to democracy. We heard it all weekend long. Those of us who are fools enough to listen to it, and count me out, I was not. I'm just reading the transcripts from what I saw today. So now the Constitution of the United States compels governmental graft, governmental waste and abuse, governmental crookedness, the redistribution of wealth, a massive welfare state, not just in our country, but international. Somehow, somewhere, that's what the framers intended. Where? It's nowhere. But you have loathsome, low-life senators like this Chris Murphy from Connecticut. You've got hosts who are the most grotesquely stupid, ideologically buffoonish individuals, period, let alone to be on a public platform, like that clown from Meet the Press, whatever the hell her name is. I'll get to it. We got a lot to do. I've got 3 guests tonight, and they're all great. When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. So now if you stand up against plunder, unconstitutional plunder, and the head of the executive branch, the president, says, I got to get my branch of government under control. I want to put in a temporary freeze so I can see what's going on. I want to conduct an audit of the books over at the Treasury Department. I want to offer these enormous numbers of federal bureaucrats an opportunity to accept severance pay. I want to take steps to control the government, to get rid of U.S. aid and all the corrupt money the Democrats have flowed through it to its causes and its friends and all the rest of it. We're now told by one federal judge after another, that this may violate the Constitution or some statute. They've created a legal system in their own minds, but they've created a legal system to protect plunder. That is the plundering of you. And let me tell you something, and your children and your grandchildren. We have a $36.5 trillion on-budget debt. We have a $300 trillion off-budget debt. And so you have a man who has the guts as president of the United States, first of all, to become president again, what he went through. The same lawfare in our legal system, but now with activist Democrat judges and activist rhino judges participating in the plunder, participating in the grotesque abuse of you, the American people. You're not allowed to cut one damn penny, even if it means money that goes for transgender education in Cambodia. It doesn't matter. Not one damn penny. And now the Democrats are saying we're going to shut down the federal government if they attempt to cut these budgets. They're actually saying two things. I actually have one guy, this new senator from New Jersey, who looks like he's dumb as hell, sounds like he's dumb as hell. Well, I may have to vote to shut down the government. Then on the other side, you have other Democrats like Elizabeth Warren and Cory Booker saying, the Republicans want to shut down the government. So their strategy is to shut down the government. They're finally going to blame Trump and the Republicans for their violations of the Constitution. They're also out there saying that the Republicans are trying to destroy Social Security. They've had a hell of a weekend. A hell of a weekend. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you see what the Federal Reserve did literally days after President Trump's victory? It lowered interest rates by a quarter. Do you know why it did that? It's worried about the economy. It's worried about the fact that jobs aren't being created. We're seeing all kinds of shifts in our portfolios, and it's important to stay aware. That's why I'm urging everyone to diversify and consider gold as one of your financial shields. Now, gold has weathered every kind of economic downturn throughout history. I want you to call Advantage Gold. They're the best of the best, folks. I've dealt with all of them. They're the best. They're my gold company. 1-800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. I recommend Advantage Gold to anyone who's serious about protecting their wealth, and that's you. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit, and you could even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. You'll be very happy with them. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Quote was from Frédéric Bastiat, who lived to the ripe old age of 49. He caught tuberculosis as he was promoting his views. He was a small businessman. He was a thinker. He was a writer. 6 years before he died, he promoted his economic viewpoints. So it wasn't for very long, but he wrote a few wonderful books. You could call them long essays. The Law was the most famous of the bunch. And in that, he was explaining, basically liberty, private property rights, free market economics. You need to understand the notion of free market economics wasn't developed 1,000 years ago. It was developed in more recent history. And the socialists were on the rise. Marx was on the rise. All this was going on in France at the time and around Europe at the time, and he was confronting this. And so this is where this genius comment comes from when he wrote, when plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. And this is the Democrat Party, the media, and the swamp today. They want you to believe that what the Constitution doesn't provide is compelled by the Constitution. I would ask all the great law professors out there and all the great reporters out there, tell me, where is the bureaucracy in the Constitution? It doesn't exist. Tell me something else. You great law professors out there, where is judicial review in the Constitution of the United States? It doesn't exist. Judicial review is an implied power. An implied power. If you read the power of the judiciary in our Constitution, they only set up one court, the U.S. Supreme Court. All the other courts, every damn one of them under the Supreme Court, is created by the legislature, the Congress, under an act of Congress. More when I return. We'll be returning, actually, with President Trump. The markets are volatile. They're shooting up wildly, only to drop without warning. The Fed just cut rates yet again, this time by a quarter point. Why? Because the Federal Reserve is not confident the economy is strong. In fact, last month only 12,000 jobs were created, all of them in the government. That's why I'm telling you again, diversification is crucially important. And diversification with gold is what I do. And the company I use, and I've used many, the best one is Advantage Gold. Call them now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit to see how gold gold can help you diversify your investments and take advantage now. Now, gold has been helping to protect and grow wealth for people for thousands of years. And in these times, it can be more crucial than ever. When it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're one of the top gold companies in America. They're who I turn to when I purchase gold. Call them now, 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000 now for a free gold investment kit to see how gold can help you with your investment portfolio, a.k.a. your bank accounts, your paycheck. And when you do, you could qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Folks, don't wait. Call them now, 800-900-8000, and tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. It's always an honor to welcome to these airwaves President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump, I want to thank you for everything you're doing, and you're doing a hell of a lot. And first, this lawfare, they wanted to keep you out of the presidency, and now they want to sabotage and undermine and kill your agenda. I see they're cherry-picking these federal judges in these liberal cities. Birthright citizenship, no. Free certain limited aspects of federal funding, no. Buyouts for federal workers, we're going to put that on. Take a look at that. Transgender prisoners, men should be with men. Well, we got to look at that. The access to Treasury data to do what? To conduct an audit effectively. Well, we don't know about that. The Democrat attorneys general, they've got their Obama, Biden, even some Reagan, one Trump judge, but we know how that works out. Sometimes you got to cut a deal to get these judges. And is the judiciary now taking over the executive branch, Mr. President?
Well, you get some very bad rulings, and it's a shame to see it, frankly. They want to sort of tell everybody how to run the country when they say that certain people in charge of massive agencies or people doing very, very important people, smart people doing investigations of fraud. And they don't talk about what you're looking at. All they just say is, oh, it's unconstitutional. But when you look at what's been found, the fraud and the waste and the abuse, but the fraud, outright fraud at, so many different places. Wait till you see what's going to come up. What's going to come up is unthinkable. And you can say it with great knowledge and with great, great flavor. If you want to say it, you can say it with great flavor because it's going to be dramatic. And it's a shame what's happening, Mark. It's really a shame. But judges should be ruling. They shouldn't be dictating what you're supposed to be doing. And why is somebody saying that you're not allowed to? As an example, USAID, you take a look at it and you look at the kind of things that we found, just point after point. Normally you'd find 1 out of 100 bad. Now you find 1 out of 100 good. It's just absolutely crazy. But we're making tremendous progress, I will tell you. The country is making tremendous progress. There's a light over our country right now.
100%. And in fact, I'm looking at this latest poll, and it's CBS. It's not a friend. I mean, and they're saying 53% of the people approve of what you're doing, and 70% say he's doing what he promised to do. And isn't that what's driving Washington, the Democrats, the media, and these judges nuts? That is, you're literally doing what you said you would do. The people voted for you to do what you're doing. And the unelected parts now of our government, the bureaucracy and the judges, are trying to prevent it.
So if I didn't do what I said I was going to do, we're not going to have a country very long because the country was in serious problem. I mean, we've made such a comeback. It's been amazing. But the country it just is in serious problem. You look at $36 trillion in debt. If we're not going around looking for fraud, waste, abuse, and everything else, you're not going to have a country. So we're doing a job. People are shocked by what's been found. And, Mark, I'm telling you, it's peanuts compared to what is going to be announced.
Isn't it amazing, Mr. President? So they attack Elon Musk. Look, I met him once. I don't know him. He seems okay. But he's doing all this voluntarily. He's trying to help the country. He's trying to help you. So now he's public enemy number 2. You're always public enemy number 1. People who work for them, they're trying to destroy. So anybody who dares to stand up to this massive Leviathan, this like big bowl of jelly, isn't that what they do? They just try and attack them. They can't even defend what this government's doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I see where they're trying to Donald Trump-proof places like New York and California. I mean, New York, the corruption in the court system is unthinkable what they've done in the court system to people, and in particular to me and to others, is just can't be allowed to go on. And, you know, you want to help places, and you want to help the big cities and the inner cities and these states that in cases are horribly, horribly run. But it really makes it difficult to want to help, I will tell you. It makes it difficult when you're a victim of massive frauds, whether it's the courts or whether it's the bad prosecutors like Alvin Bragg and Letitia James, who's totally corrupt. Both of them. They ran on, I will get Trump. They knew nothing about me. They just knew I will get Trump. And when you see that, and then you see people fleeing the city, fleeing New York, and they're going because of incompetence, corruption, and many other reasons. You know, the reasons companies leave and people leave and jobs leave. And it's really sad to see, very sad to see.
And yet, despite all this, look at, I mean, I'm saying, I've never seen anything like this in 3 weeks. You're locking down the borders. People aren't even trying to break in, or the very small numbers are. You're moving the worst of the worst out. And, I mean, it's really having an effect. When I walk around, Mr. President, I go to diners here and there, or like you, I go to McDonald's or whatever. The fact of the matter is, people, there's an extra, you know, there's a pep in their step. There's a smile on their face. They're very excited about what's taking place. Obviously, you must see this too.
Well, I hear from people from all over the world. I hear from leaders of countries that aren't even that friendly to us, and they say there's a light over the country and a light over the world, not just our country. They feel better. They feel safer. And these are countries that are, you know, pretty tough competitors. And they feel differently. I can tell you the people in the U.S., they feel so relieved. We had grossly incompetent and corrupt people running our country. Grossly, they were incompetent and they were corrupt. That's a deadly combination. And we've done a real job in 2.5 weeks. We're being credited. Some are saying the best 2.5 weeks ever done for the start of a presidency, and that's good. I'm very happy about that.
Would you have ever dreamt that the taxpayers were subsidizing media organizations to the tune of tens of millions of dollars? I mean,
unbelievable.
Doesn't that explain? Yeah, doesn't that explain a lot about the media in this country? Yeah.
Well, when you say media, the radical left media, you know, left.
Yeah.
I read about Politico and I read about others, and they're all left, way left, and you never get, you know, you win an election. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing phenomenon. You win an election in a landslide, and yet you virtually all year long didn't get a good story. Think of it, which really tells you the public is very smart. But the money that goes to the media, and they call it, I guess you purchase a paper, and, you know, they purchased a hell of a lot of papers for the money they spent. But it's corrupt, you know that, and I'm sure it's an election violation. And we'll have to see what happens. But that's a massive campaign violation, because basically they're there to serve the Democrat Party. That's all they do, serve the Democrat Party. They're corrupt people, and it's become a very corrupt system because of it, and people lose confidence. But it really gets other people. If you happen to be on the other side, for instance, we just passed no men in women's sports. We're not going to let men beat women up. You have to see boxing matches. It's horrible to watch. We're not going to let this happen. That's just little things like a straw. People don't want paper straws, and we just ruled that out. You don't have to have paper straws that explode on you half the time, ruin your clothing. I mean, they literally show pictures of these things that they're not meant. They're not meant to be. Paper's not meant to be used for a straw, and so even a little thing like that was trending number one. You know, it's like, because I think it's a 95% issue, probably 95. Men and women's sports is, I mean, the numbers on that are just through the roof, and they stick with it. I watched on television the other night. It was very interesting, where a Democrat, a prominent Democrat, I won't mention the name, but a prominent Democrat is trying to justify men being in women's sport. Now, as long as they do that, they're never going to win a race, because or open borders. Who would want open borders? Who wants to have people from all over the world pouring into our country? And I'm happy to say we have the tightest borders we've ever had right this moment.
Do you see your second time around here? Do you see things a little differently? Do you see? You feel like you're able now to really grab this by the throat, by the neck, because of your past experience?
Much different. Number one, I know a lot of people. I didn't know anybody. I wasn't in the world of Washington, D.C. But the radical left, they've really lost their confidence. It was a bad election defeat. They lost everything, and presidentially. And they've lost their confidence. They've lost the strut. You know, they had a bunch of real bad, very bad people. Very, very bad people. I actually think they're sick people, you want to know the truth, and what they've done. But they've lost a lot of confidence, and they seem to be different. Plus, I have much greater support than I have had. And, you know, I won the popular vote by millions of votes. I won the all 7 swing states. You remember you and I talked, and it looked like I was going to do well, but nobody, you just don't win all 7. I won all 7 and won them easily. Won states that generally aren't won by Republicans, won them by a lot. So we have a big mandate, and it's really I don't know why they should be surprised, but they seem to be really. I mean, they are taking it hard. You know, if they go out and they pay Beyonce as an example, somebody just showed me something. They gave her $11 million
for what?
For an endorsement, I guess, because she didn't sing. They paid Oprah $2 million. They even paid a scam artist named Al Sharpton, total scam artist, Tawana Brawley. You know, you and I grew up with this lunatic, and he's scamming them. You know, Brian Roberts at Comcast, what he's allowed to happen to that company, he ought to be ashamed. It's a big campaign contribution. How he hired Al Sharpton is a classic. Okay, it's a classic. When you watch the guy, he can't even speak. And, you know, it's all a scam. But the good news is the public understands it. The public has gotten wise to it. They've seen it. And but how do you pay Beyonce $11 million? And then, you know, they also ran out of money. They have no money. They spent $2.7 billion, and they can't raise
That's what liberals
the
do.
final $28 million that they've been looking for a long time.
They raise a ton of money, and they're still in debt. That's what they do.
Yep.
Let me ask you 2 more questions, because I know you're busy, and I don't want to stop you from doing great things. How'd you enjoy the Super Bowl? You know, I'm from Philadelphia, so I enjoyed it. But, you know, I think 90% of the country after the half said, you know, that's enough already.
Well, I think the worst moment was probably endured by Taylor Swift, who got practically booed out of the stadium. And by the way, they were really nice to me, if you saw that. But
I did.
Was very nice.
For 3 seconds, they showed you.
Yeah, for 3 seconds. It was not a long. It's sort of interesting. They put it on for 3 seconds. You're right, and the place went crazy.
Yep.
They got me off as fast as they could. I don't know if that's Fox or the NFL or who it is. I really don't know, but it was sort of interesting. I didn't care. I don't care. If I did care, I'd end up being a basket case. But it was people commented. In fact, when the crowd, because you know it takes a little while to look up at the screen, right? Mm-hmm. By the time they looked, it was gone, but the place still went wild, so it was pretty good. But she got really hit, and because they don't like it. The other thing I hated watching was the kickoff, where you have
it's weird.
People, the ball is in play, and you have 2 teams frozen in place, and it is the weirdest looking thing. I think it's so bad for that game. They want to reinvent the game. And I think it's more dangerous than the other way, frankly. They do it because they think they're going to help with concussions. That's not going to help anything. But it really looks horrible. I thought it was terrible. And the game, obviously, it was not a well-played game by the one team. I will say this. The Eagles were really, it was like flawless football. Amazing. Mm-hmm. Even the first play, they called it back. It was a long pass. It was, you know, either a touchdown or going to be a touchdown, and they called it back, a completed long pass, and they went on to get touchdown after touchdown. They really played great.
I guess my last question is, the Democrats are already saying they're threatening to shut down the government. Isn't it important to get in front of that and make it clear to the American people, if the government's shut down, it's these people. They want to shut down the government. They want to do these things, because that's what they're plotting.
Yeah, they're plotting a lot of things. And so far, it's gotten them nothing. They impeached me. They indicted me. They did everything you can do. They're just corrupt people. And you have to handle it as it comes. The good news is the American public is smart, and they understand it. They get it 100%. And these people are not the same people they were. They're fighting so hard, but it's not sticking. Nothing's sticking with them. And we're going to keep it that way, Mark.
Well, Mr. President, the country is excited. Forget about Washington. People are excited, in the neighborhoods, in the communities, in the cities, suburbs, and the rural areas. They just are. They're thrilled that you won the election. They wanted you to be the president. You're being the president. So all these Lilliputians, no matter what they do, the fact of the matter is, I just want you to know that. We wake up every day, and we're very, very excited about what is taking place in this country. So I want you to hear that, too. And we do appreciate you.
I appreciate it. I see it, and I feel it. And I'm looking at numbers where I see it, too. It's more than just look or feel. But we're gonna have a rich and great country again. We're doing things that nobody else would do, and that had to be done. And, we did great in 2016. We did much better by 10 or 12 million votes the second time, and terrible things happened. Terrible, terrible things, a disgrace. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what's happened this time is much bigger. It makes it a more important time. And I think you're going to see some things you're going to be very happy about. The American publics are going to be very happy with the end result. And we're going to really do a job.
Thank you, Mr. President. We appreciate your time. We know how busy you are. God bless you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much, Mark.
You got it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you see what the Federal Reserve did literally days after President Trump's victory? It lowered interest rates by a quarter. Do you know why it did that? It's worried about the economy. It's worried about the fact that jobs aren't being created. We're seeing all kinds of shifts in our portfolios, and it's important to stay aware. That's why I'm urging everyone to diversify and consider gold as one of your financial shields. Now, gold has weathered every kind of economic downturn throughout history. I want you to call Advantage Gold. They're the best of the best, folks. I've dealt with all of them. They're the best. They're my gold company. 1-800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. I recommend Advantage Gold to anyone who's serious about protecting their wealth, and that's you. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit, and you could even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. You'll be very happy with them. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Big news here. The New York Times is exceedingly upset, saying this demonstrates there's not going to be proper justice under Donald Trump and his Department of Justice. The Slimes writes, the Justice Department today told federal prosecutors in Manhattan to drop the corruption charges against Mayor Eric Adams, claiming his indictment last fall came too near the 2025 mayoral primary and had limited his ability to cooperate in President Trump's immigration crackdown. You're directed to dismiss the charges. Emil Bove, the Justice Department acting number 2 official, wrote in a letter to prosecutors, according to 2 people briefed on the contents. That's a leak out of the Southern District. Now listen to the New York Times. This isn't news. This is an editorial here. The remarkable intervention by a Trump political appointee in a public corruption prosecution casts doubt on the future of the case against the mayor. It also raises urgent questions about the administration of justice during Mr. Trump's second term, cast the independence of federal prosecutors into doubt. This is a man taking control of the government. He was the elected head of the executive branch. Funny thing about that Constitution, you won't find U.S. attorneys in there. What else won't you find? You won't find the Department of Justice in there. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The president is the executive branch. Now, this from the New York Slimes. I seem to recall Joe Biden interfered in a whole bunch of prosecutions, and in fact, he helped trigger all the cases against Donald Trump. That's right. That's right. We don't have the fingerprints, but we have public statements. They give us plenty. Plenty. Man, oh man. Let's go. We got more. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. I wouldn't dial it right now. I press the buttons or whatever people do. You know, I spent a full hour with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We asked to come on Life, Liberty, and Levin. We had a great time. We just had the first exclusive radio interview of President Trump since his re-election. And I'm thinking, okay, can we top this? I mean, when it comes to the Super Bowl, who do I want to talk to? I want to talk to my buddy Stephen A. Smith. Now, he needs to catch a plane. He needs to get in there first class, get his peanuts and his pretzels, right, Stephen A.? But that said, I want your take, baby, because I thought the Eagles and you thought the Eagles.
Well, first of all, it's always great to talk to you, number one. Secondly, great job with the interview with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I watched, I caught about 15 minutes of it or so. Did a great job, as always.
Thanks,
I would tell you the Super Bowl itself, it was shocking. I picked the Eagles to win. I picked Jalen Hurts to win the MVP, but I did not expect that kind of beatdown. That was a shocker. You got to people don't realize that we was talking about it because Saquon Barkley had their running back rush for 2,005 yards this season, best running back in football, offensive player of the year, all of that stuff. And with their offensive line averaging 6'6", about 318 to 328 pounds, we had been talking about the Eagles and their ability to run the football and how that would rule the day. No one anticipated that the Eagles' front four defensively would just maul Patrick Mahomes all night long. Sacked a career high 6 times, pressured 16 times during his 42 dropbacks, held to a total net yards of 23 yards, and 1 first down in the entire first half. Didn't cross midfield until the third quarter. 0 for 6 on third down conversions in the first half. Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins held to 0 receptions. It was a complete domination, the likes of which no one had ever seen transpire against Patrick Mahomes before. And this was much worse than when Tom Brady in Tampa Bay beat them 31-9 in the Super Bowl about 4 years ago. What an annihilation. That's exactly what it was. We've never seen Patrick Mahomes reduce that. For those that don't know the QBR, your QBR rating, you know, you got 100, you know, you got over 80, usually that's good, stuff like that, Mark. The great Patrick Mahomes had a QBR of 1 in the first half. 1. Just domination. Complete domination.
So let me ask you this. For me, I'm kind of rudimentary, but I just see what I see. So are all these teams now going to try and get these massive, big men? But, you know, these are real athletes. They're not just massive, big men to be on their offensive and defensive lines, because I think they're going to have to move toward that.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of moving towards that. Any team worth its salt tries to get that, Mark, because you understand that football games are won and lost in the trenches. What you have on your offensive and defensive line usually determines your level of success. If you have massive bodies to lean on, you win. If you don't, you lose. And that's just the way that it goes. And so everybody's aspiring to get that. It's just that you don't have that every day. Those are not the kind of things that are available to you. And so you get the best ones that are available. They all have size, but they all don't have skill. And so that's what you have to look at. The Eagles are fortunate enough where they have both size and skill. And that's why they're sitting here tonight as the Super Bowl champions.
So they shut down Barkley. That obviously was their big focus. And
well, that was their focus.
That was their focus. Yes. But the Eagles have a lot of tools, don't they?
A.J. Brown, wide receiver, Devontae Smith, who's caught that 46-yard touchdown pass. One of the better tight ends in football in Dallas Goedert. A massive offensive line. obviously a offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore, who's proven he's head coaching material. You can expect him to be the next head coach for the New Orleans Saints. It'll be announced sometime within the next day or two. So they have all of that going on, but they also have an MVP, Super Bowl MVP and quarterback Jalen Hurts. This was the interesting part. There were so many question marks about him and his ability to get it done. If you remember anything, he was the quarterback at Alabama years ago. He was so awful in the first half that Nick Saban, the coach at Alabama at the time, benched him in favor of Tua Tagovailoa, the now quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. Tua comes off the bench, throws a game-winning touchdown that enables Alabama to beat Georgia for the national title. That was the game that Jalen Hurts was benched. He stuck around the next season before ultimately transferring to Oklahoma, takes them to the college football playoffs, but they come up short for the national title. Gets drafted in the second round by the Philadelphia Eagles, wasn't even drafted in the first round, elevates to the starting quarterback position, finished second in the league for MVP honors 2 years ago, but they lost in the Super Bowl of Kansas City 38-35, a game in which he outplayed Patrick Mahomes. Then he turns around, and 2 years later, he's back again, and this time he plays just as well, but the defense, with 8 new starters on the defensive side of the ball for the Philadelphia Eagles, completely dominates Kansas City in a way that they couldn't before, and that's why the results this time were different than they were last time.
You know, you said something today that I heard in one of these clips I watched on the on your ESPN website. You said, there's been a lot of talk about Barkley, but not a lot of talk about the Eagles team. You heard about Detroit, you heard about Buffalo, you heard about the Kansas City, and this, but never the Eagles team. It really was overlooked, wasn't it?
It was. We saw, but for dare I say, for the right reasons. Like, there were question marks about the Philadelphia Eagles. Howie Roseman has proven to be probably the best executive in the sport. When you look at the job that he has done, this is a guy that was once demoted by owner Jeffrey Lurie because he wanted to bring in Coach Chip Kelly, who's now the offensive coordinator for the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. Well, Chip Kelly was the head coach. That didn't pan out. What did Jeffrey Lurie do? He had never fired him. He just demoted Howie Roseman. What he did was he fired Chip Kelly and promoted Howie Roseman back to his rightful place. What does Howie Roseman do? He puts the team together. Nick Foles is your reserve quarterback because Carson Wentz, the starting quarterback at the time, gets injured. Nick Foles delivers a Super Bowl championship over Brady and the New England Patriots, beating them 41-33. Then a few years later, he gets back to the Super Bowl, but they lose 2 years ago to Kansas City. And now in his third Super Bowl, they won another one. Meanwhile, what happened to lead to this Super Bowl championship? After last season's debacle, where they lost like 6 times in the last 7 weeks of the season in the playoffs, including the playoffs to Baker Mayfield and those guys, he gets the offensive coordinator is gone, the defensive coordinator is gone. He hires 2 new guys, Vic Fangio for your defense, Kellen Moore for your offense. He tells Coach Nick Sirianni, we need you to scale back. We need you to be a game manager and an overseer, because if you are focused on one side of the ball, you can miss other things. You don't need to be calling plays and preoccupying yourself with all of that. You need to let somebody else do those things, and you just tell them what you're seeing and tell them what you want and leave the rest to them. And that's what Nick Sirianni has done. And all of those things turned out to work for goldenly for, the Philadelphia Eagles. So you get Saquon Barkley from the Giants. You pick up some backup from the Saints that was a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year when he played for you this year. You draft not 1 but 2 rookies that's in your starting lineup and produce big things for you, including this guy DeJean, who had the pick 6 against Patrick Mahomes yesterday. This was all Howie Roseman. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, you got an owner that corrected the error of his ways. You have a GM that learned from it and excelled even further. You had a coach that needed to learn some things, and he elevated his level of play. You had a quarterback who lost the Super Bowl 2 years ago. He elevated his level of play. You got a running back that came from the Giants that was out on a mission with something to prove, and a whole bunch of supplementary parts that were like, wait a minute. We remember how it felt to lose 2 years ago to these dudes. We ain't doing it again. And oh, by the way, the defensive coordinator showed, because he had lost the Super Bowl before, what does he do? He brings the defense in the room and shows them the film of the entire game and shows how he lost and how he watches that every so often and how painful that memory is. And y'all don't want to feel the kind of pain that I have been enduring all of these years. All of these things they used as motivational tools to annihilate the Kansas City Chiefs last season.
One quick one, last one. The coach, I mean, there was a period of time where people were questioning him and so forth and so on, and his contract's coming up. I think he's in pretty good shape, don't you?
Yes, he is. He's absolutely. I mean, he's proven himself to be one of the better coaches. It's not just that he won. Look at who he beat. He beat Andy Reid. Andy Reid is one of the great coaches. Prior to last night, we were talking about Andy Reid, if he had won this Super Bowl, as being ranked as the second greatest coach in the history of football behind Bill Belichick. That's the kind of breadth that Andy Reid was being talked about. And yet last night, he had no adjustments. He had no answer for what the Philadelphia Eagles were throwing at him. He never tried to run the football. They couldn't throw the football. The great Patrick Mahomes was tap dancing in the pocket like the late, great Gregory Hines or Fred Astaire. Yeah. I mean, it was hard to miss. I mean, it was something to behold. And all of this was spearheaded by Nick Sirianni and his game plan and what he wanted to do. So Nick Sirianni is being looked upon in an entirely different light today as one of the elite coaches that's been in the Super Bowl twice in the last 3 years and now is a Super Bowl champion. And sure, his future is bright as well as it should be. He shut a lot of people up, and he proved a lot of doubters wrong.
Stephen A., if people want to find you, there's like 412 places they can go. Where should they go?
I would just tell you First Take on ESPN every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. And, of course, my YouTube show / podcast on YouTube, the Stephen A. Smith Show on YouTube, as well as on iHeartRadio. Those are the two best places you can find me, at least for now. What's going to happen in the next few months remains to be seen.
I love it. And on Hannity every other day, right?
Practically every week. He calls me all the time. That's my buddy. You know he's crazy, right. But I love him.
Yeah. That's all right, brother. Well, have a safe flight.
Right,
God bless you, man. You too.
God bless you. Take care.
You too. It's a good man. I really like him a lot. It's just a very nice guy in ways that you don't know because, you know, he's personal ways, texting and speaking to us and so forth. We've got a lot more when we come back here. There is breaking news about something President Trump just said, and you're going to want to hear this. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
This country was founded on freedom. Freedom from a country that forced us to buy overpriced tea, then try blockading us when we dumped their tea into the ocean. How'd that work out? Well, it's time to throw your overpriced big wireless contract overboard, too. You don't need to pay $100 a month per person just to get a free phone. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, says no to inflated prices and gimmicks. With a qualifying plan of just $45 a month, you can choose a free iPhone 14 or a free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans. And yes, this is for a premium service. Unlimited talk, text, 25 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot at a fraction of the price of the big three. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Get your free iPhone 14 or Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans by visiting puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free iPhone or Galaxy with a qualifying purchase from Pure Talk. America's wireless company, my wireless company. As I mentioned, you know, folks, I spent a good amount of time Friday and Saturday with the Prime Minister of Israel, did my members of my family, and he is a good friend. He's become a very dear friend, as has Donald Trump. He's a very, very dear friend as well. These men have a similar makeup, if you will. They're true leaders. They're champions of the people they represent. And they're no-nonsense people. You could tell in the interview with Donald Trump about an hour ago, he's very relaxed with me. He tells me we have great chemistry. We do. I don't want anything from him. I don't go around his back. I don't do any of those things. I am what I am, as Popeye said. And the same with Benjamin Netanyahu. Same thing. Now they're fronting this monster, Hamas, which is effectively the Muslim Brotherhood. It's all the same, really. They want to destroy Israel. They want to destroy us. They want to destroy civilization is what they want to do. These are people who embrace Islam in a way that's never gone through Reformation. They reject the Enlightenment. They reject the West. They reject any faith that's not theirs, and they slaughter people in their own faith if those people don't pray and worship the way they insist that they do. So these are real animals. They have no respect for human life whatsoever, period. And they claim to slaughter and murder and rape and maim in the name of God. And you see it in real time and in real life, what's been going on in Gaza to these poor, innocent Israelis and others they took hostage. The idea that we have people in the West, in our country, in our colleges and universities, in our media, in the Democrat Party, that effectively defend it, even though they pretend they don't. You can't play two sides of this thing. You're either for or against evil. Is really an astonishing and unconscionable and disgusting thing. Well, today Hamas just announced that, well, Israel's violated the deal, so we're out. Israel didn't violate anything. They're dealing with subhuman rabid monsters. And so Israel's poised to take action now. You saw what I mentioned it myself. These last three hostages, you saw what they look like. They look like survivors from the Holocaust, right out of the camps. They brutalized these people. They've tortured these people. These people have lived through hell and back. They've starved them. They're all malnourished. They all have very severe issues with various organs in their bodies as a result of their treatment. One of the poor men came out. He wanted to see his wife and his two daughters. Well, they were slaughtered as he was taken hostage on October 7th. Imagine that. Imagine that. Well, it's hard to. And so less than an hour ago, really about 30, 40 minutes ago, President Trump was asked about this, and he's had enough. Netanyahu's had enough. Trump's had enough. Go.
Should the ceasefire then be off?
Well, I would say this, and I'm going to let that because that's Israel's decision. But as far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out. And I don't think they're going to do it. I think a lot of them are dead. I think a lot of the hostages are dead. I think it's a great human tragedy what's happened. How people can be that mean to do. I mean, the one guy was laughing when a hostage he thought his family was alive. Found out the family was dead, and his captor, so to speak, started laughing because he thought it was so funny. You know, this is a different group of people. No, I would say Saturday at 12, we want them all back. I'm speaking for myself. Israel can override it. But from myself, Saturday at 12 o'clock, and if they're not here, all hell is going to break out.
And I suspect all hell will break out because I think the Israelis really have had enough. And they were held back long enough by Biden and France and Britain and the rest of the quislings in Europe. They were held back by their own left in their country, believe it or not. Many entities funded by billionaires in our country, dark money, Soros and their ilk. I think that's it. And you need to know that Trump and Netanyahu have seen things that we haven't seen, videos that we haven't seen, pictures we haven't seen. They've heard things that we don't even know about, and we've seen and heard a lot. These are great men, great, great men. And here in our country, the Democrat Party that doesn't have a single great man among them in their leadership or their would-be leadership, or woman for that matter, not one. Our media, not a single great journalist. No Edward R. Murrows, that's for sure. None. They are just pathetic. as they try and take out Trump, who's trying to get his hands around this government and bring it to some level of rationality so it doesn't swallow us up. Turns out the Democrats are on the take, the media are on the take, their whole operation is. This country was founded on freedom. Freedom from a country that forced us to buy overpriced tea, then try blockading us when we dumped their tea into the ocean. How'd that work out? Well, it's time to throw your overpriced big wireless contract overboard, too. You don't need to pay $100 a month per person just to get a free phone. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, says no to inflated prices and gimmicks. With a qualifying plan of just $45 a month, you can choose a free iPhone 14 or a free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans. And yes, this is for premium service. Unlimited talk, text, 25 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot at a fraction of the price of the big three. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Get your free iPhone 14 or Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans by visiting puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free iPhone or Galaxy with a qualifying purchase from Pure Talk. America's wireless company, my wireless company. All kinds of things going on. Breaking from Florida's Voice, Governor Ron DeSantis, Speaker Daniel Perez, and Senate President Ben Albritton reached deal on the illegal immigration bill. Special session begins tomorrow at 11 at noon. So, Governor DeSantis, we've got some progress here, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. I mean, as you and your listeners know, President Trump's got a big mandate on the issue of border and illegal immigration, particularly to conduct this big deportation program. And California, Illinois, New York, they're going to try to frustrate that. A state like Florida, not only are we not going to be a sanctuary state, we want to affirmatively help that effort, because the reality is they're not going to be able to get it done unless you have states like Florida that are actively participating. And so the proposals that they're going to consider this week make it a crime to enter the state of Florida illegally, which I think is really good policy. It ends catch and release of criminal illegal aliens by denying them bail. And I think most crucially, it requires the active participation of state and local law enforcement in the enforcement of federal immigration law. And they even provide sanctions if these local entities are not doing it. Some can be fined, but they also have the ability through the governor's removal power to take people and suspend them from office. And so that's real teeth that'll make a difference. And I think you're going to see really positive results of this. I've already been doing agreements with DHS, with our state agency. So last Friday, we announced an agreement with Florida Highway Patrol under 287G, and we're working to do more of our state agencies. I don't need to have a duty imposed on me at the state level. I'm going to do it anyways. But on the local level, we definitely need that. So not only are we not going to allow sanctuary, we need everybody to be on the team if we want to enforce immigration law in the interior of our country again. And
well, that's really great, actually. That's great progress in the state of Florida. You know, you're a great leader. That's what you do. You know, you get into these tussles a little bit and then circle back and work these things out. You guys have worked it out. So you're pretty happy with this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It gives us everything we need. I mean, you remember when you and I discussed the initial proposals that the legislature passed, it actually removed the governor from immigration enforcement entirely and gave that to the Commissioner of Agriculture. It eliminated our current operations that we've been doing now for many years, including, we're not really at the southern border anymore because Trump's doing a good job there, but we were there with Biden. We're in the Florida Keys, and then with our boats, interdicting vessels. We've interdicted 18,000 illegal aliens just in the state of Florida operations, not even including the Coast Guard in the last year and a half. All that was going to end. So in the proposals now, governor retains constitutional authority. All our current operations continue, and they are not putting immigration enforcement in the hands of the Commissioner of Agriculture. And I know there's a lot of our supporters who were concerned about that. And I think most people realize that, look, name a state, Mark, that handles crisis, disaster, and emergency situations better than the state of Florida. We're built for this, and we're going to get the job done.
Let me ask you something quickly, just to borrow a little bit more of your time. All these judges are lining up, and this claim by the left, by the Democrats, by the media, and some of these judges that somehow the Constitution prevents the president from actually managing the executive branch. You know, it's one thing if there's a statute, but they're not citing statutes. They're just saying, he's not a king. He can't run the executive branch this way. Actually, he is in charge of the executive branch. You're an executive. You're a congressman. These attacks on Donald Trump and what he's trying to do with the workforce, what he's trying to do in terms of spending and so forth and so on. There's no constitutional protection generally in the Constitution, is there?
All executive power resides under Article 2 with the President of the United States. So not only does he have the right to manage the executive branch in the absence of statute, I would say to you, and I think you would agree, Mark, there have been statutes passed over the years that impinge on the president's actual constitutional authority under Article 2 and that are unconstitutional. And I hope President Trump challenges some of those. I mean, this idea of a entrenched civil service that you can't fire people for bad behavior or poor performance, that is not what the Founding Fathers intended. And so what these judges are doing is they're basically trying to make our country heads they win, tails we lose. So if they win the election, they get to run wild and do what they want. But if they lose the election, somehow they're still entitled to wield power. And our elected president, who was elected with a mandate to change Washington, is somehow neutered from being able to do it. It is way outside the bounds of what judges are supposed to do, which is just decide cases and controversies. These are resistance judges who are simply trying to throw sand in the gears and prevent Donald Trump from bringing about the policies that the American people voted for.
And these same Democrats, Governor, who were talking about, you know, Trump's out to destroy democracy, they're out there saying he's out to destroy the Constitutional. They're hardcore leftists. They don't even believe in the Constitution. They attack the men who wrote the Constitution. They attack the people who fought for our revolution. And then they come up here with this cockamamie stuff that if you don't support what they have left us, which is a $36 trillion disaster, and you actually have him and Elon Musk who are trying to do something about it, somehow that's unconstitutional. Now, you know both these men, and you know Elon Musk, right? And
yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, I would
good
say,
man,
Mark,
right?
it's the opposite. Yeah, I would say it's the opposite. What they're doing is they're restoring proper constitutional government. Our founders did not create a fourth branch of government. Now, this has metastasized over many decades. Congress has been a big culprit in this, including Republican Congresses, because they've passed omnibus bills, they've passed continuing resolutions. They don't wield the power of the purse to discipline the bureaucracy. So you want to know why a USAID would feel comfortable spending money like they have? Because they know that they're bulletproof. They know Congress will never drop the hammer. And so what President Trump and Elon are doing is they're exposing the soft underbelly of the permanent administrative state. By dismantling that, you are not attacking, quote, democracy. You're restoring the Constitution as was originally understood and was practiced for most of American history until more recent times.
Well, thanks for coming on the last minute, straightening out the information on Florida. Sounds good to me, and congratulations, I think, right?
Yeah, we're going to be rocking and rolling. You're going to see a lot of good stuff. I hope other states will follow. President cannot do this by himself if the states are not going to pitch in. So we're on the team.
God bless you, brother. You take care of yourself,
right,
Governor.
Man. See you later. Bye-bye.
You too. Another great patriot, truly. Now, I want to give you a feel for what's going on here in the media, because most of us didn't watch any of this. They're bringing on the same liars, propagandists, demagogues, and just loathsome human beings dressed up as serious politicians, including the senator from Connecticut. His name is Chris Murphy. He's a nobody. He's never done anything significant. Just another slip and fall, ambulance-chasing political lawyer. And they keep attacking Musk, his team. They keep attacking this organization, Doge, D-O-G-E. Thank God they're there. They're there. They're volunteering to help us, America. They're exposing these things, and the Democrats don't want it exposed. They're saying the fact of exposing the corruption, the use of your money to support Democrat Party political objectives, to subsidize the media, to promote wokeism in foreign countries and in the third world. that somehow that's unconstitutional when Musk and his troops are trying to get access to the information on behalf of the President of the United States, who is the executive branch under the Constitution. That somehow, when he's trying to temporarily freeze spending, not on Social Security and Medicare, but on these radical left-wing programs and the spending on these programs, that somehow he's not allowed to do it. He's not even allowed to look at it. That by offering severance to federal workers, 65,000 of whom so far have wanted it, that he's not permitted to do that. These are the basic functions of an executive. These are the basic functions of how you run the bureaucracy. Every single penny that's been spent has been defended by the media and defended by the Democrat Party. Every single penny. Listen to this guy, Chris Murphy, on ABC's This Week. And keep something in mind. Why do they bring him on? Remember, there's a reason they bring every one of these guests on. Because he's promoting a viewpoint they want. So here we have Donald Trump, the anti-constitutionalist. Again, Donald Trump, a coup. Donald Trump, anti-democrat. Donald Trump is carrying out exactly what he promised. I'm going to slim down the government. I'm going to try and get spending under control. The government's too big. I'm going to secure the border. We're going to push this woke crap out of our federal government, out of our schools. He's doing exactly what he said he wanted to do. You voted for him, which is why, again, they're trying to smear him. But they're trying to smear you. Cut to, go.
Yeah, listen, I think this is the most serious constitutional crisis the country has faced, certainly since Watergate.
All right, shut up, a-hole. What do you mean, constitutional crisis? They've cherry-picked these judges. I'll give you an example. You have judges that hate Donald Trump and yet are Republican, like Royce Lamberth, who I've known for decades, but I'll never talk to again. They're furious what he did with the J6ers in D.C. He's one of them. He makes a point. There's only 16 people, transition types, individuals that is, in the federal prison system, and he's going to issue the temporary restraining order to do what? To do what, Royce? That these men, whatever they declare, whatever medicines they're taking, whatever surgery, these biological men shouldn't be with other biological men. You find that problematic, Royce? You really do? I don't know what the hell's happened to you. It's crazy. And the idea that a president doesn't have the authority to undo what the prior president did, that's okay too? Man, have you diminished yourself. You have diminished yourself. Then you got a guy in Seattle on birthright citizenship, a 25-minute hearing. He says, this is patently unconstitutional. I've never seen anything like this in my life. And every report says he's appointed by Reagan. There's a lot of leftists appointed by Reagan and Trump. Why? I've explained it. The media won't explain it. So I'll explain it again. You have about 1,000, give or take, federal district judges. And from time to time, you'll have in a state, or what we call a district, but I'll say a state, 3 or 4 openings. So for a Republican president to get 3 out of the 4 positions filled with people he wants, he typically has to cut a deal in a Democrat state, like Washington State, and give them one. This guy in Seattle was one of the ones he had to give them, Reagan. A big Democrat, a big defense lawyer. I hear he's an a-hole on the bench, and he's been an a-hole for decades. He's on senior status, but he's a Reagan appointee. Then you got a judge in Boston. Now you have a judge in Rhode Island. Notice the cities they're picking? Who's bringing these cases? Among others, a cabal of Democrat Party attorneys general throughout the country. They're all working together. This is a new form of lawfare. This is Lawfare 2.0, Chapter 2. And so this was the deal before the election. I told you that, again, they're going to use the lawyers, and they bragged about it, as a weapon. The unelected judges and the unelected lawyers to try and stop the results for policy promises kept by Trump from the election. That's all that's going on here. These are outrageous rulings for the most part. He wanted to freeze certain aspects of federal spending. No, you can't. Why? Buying out federal workforce. No, you can't. Why? Transgendered prisoners. No. They have certain due private. Why? Access to Treasury data so they can see what's going on. No, we can't do that. So we now have a cabal of federal district judges who think they run the damn executive branch. And the Democrats are on TV, they're on radio saying that Donald Trump is undermining the Constitution. Let me ask you something, Royce. Show me in the federal Constitution where you have the power to do what you're doing. I don't want to hear about Supreme Court decisions. I want to know. Show me in the federal Constitution where you have the power to basically take over the federal prison system. Show me. Show me the other jackass judges in Boston, in Rhode Island, in New York. Show me where you have the authority to do any of these things. Show me. And the kicker is this vast federal bureaucracy isn't even in the Constitution. Doesn't even exist. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
This country was founded on freedom. Freedom from a country that forced us to buy overpriced tea, then try blockading us when we dumped their tea into the ocean. How'd that work out? Well, it's time to throw your overpriced big wireless contract overboard, too. You don't need to pay $100 a month per person just to get a free phone. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, says no to inflated prices and gimmicks. With a qualifying plan of just $45 a month, you can choose a free iPhone 14 or a free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans. And yes, this is for a premium service. Unlimited talk, text, 25 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot at a fraction of the price of the big three. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Get your free iPhone 14 or Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plans by visiting puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free iPhone or Galaxy with a qualifying purchase from Pure Talk. America's wireless company, my wireless company. Folks, 90% of what I've got here we're not going to get to, but I'm going to make full use of hour 3, as we always do. Full use of hour 3. You're also going to hear from a law student at Georgetown Law School how there's been an invitation to a terrorist to speak there. And I bumped into this young lady a few nights ago when we were with Prime Minister Netanyahu, members of my family and I. And you're going to want to hear this. It's absolutely unbelievable, and I'm going to draw attention to it, national attention to it, see if there's something we can't do to help out here, because this has got to stop. These universities, many of them supported by Qatar, which is a terrorist regime that plays both sides of the railroad tracks, that's got to stop too. That's got to stop, period. And there's a great story out there, very well done, at the Federalist. Excellent activities going on with Judicial Watch and others, trying to get to the bottom of all the money Qatar is pouring into our schools and universities and into our country to influence our politics, because they have. They've influenced it in a huge way and in a horrendous way. And this little pipsqueak of a nothing country with fake monarchy, with fake boundaries that was created a few decades back, is trying to destroy us too.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
This show's flying by. Welcome to Hour 3, the Power Hour. Our number is 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Ilhan Omar, very important, they go to her at Face the Nation. Now, why would you go to Ilhan Omar, an out-of-the-closet Jew hater, American hater, a Marxist Islamist? Why would you go to her? Why would you go to her when she said the things that she said, and for which she was barely punished, but everybody knows it was her? But at Deface the Nation on CBS, they think it's important that of all the people, you should hear from her. Margaret Brennan, who herself is a low IQ lowlife, in my humble opinion. Just a disgrace. What these people, many, many decades ago. There he goes. Yes, many, many decades ago. There was a man who ran Face the Nation. His name was George Herman. This was a workaday journalist. And he was a straight arrow. And he even looked a little nerdy. He had his glasses. His hair was combed back, a little dabble, do you? Really smart guy, really on the ball, really down the line, right down the middle. And as a kid, I was about 15 years old, I wrote him a letter. I would write these people letters all the time, Mr. Producer, when I was a teenager, young teenager. Asked him some questions. And I put in the letter, I'm only 15 years old, and then I asked questions. And he wrote back, he said, Dear Mark, first of all, you never have to say you're only 15 years old. You wrote a very smart letter. And he took the time, and back then it's a manual typewriter to type me an answer, and I still have it, among other letters, in a box. Compare this, a George Herman, to a Margaret Brennan. Now, I just told you about George Herman, and there were others in the news business who ran Sunday shows who were real journalists. Now, I want you to listen. Now, Margaret Brennan has a history. She's kind of like Jim Acosta with a dress. And she's rude and nasty and has that same constipated look on her face. She may not be as loud. But first of all, she and her staff picked Ilhan Omar. Now, what does that tell you? They picked an anti-Semite. She must be a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Margaret Brennan and Face the Nation at CBS picked an anti-Semite as their guest. A Jew hater. In addition to hating America. But listen to this. Listen to the nature of the question. A George Herman would never ask a question like this. A Brinkley would never ask a question like this. A Howard K. Smith would never ask a question like this. And I can go down the line of the old-timers who were great. Cut 4, go.
You have spoken quite a bit this week about what USAID meant in your life, particularly when you were living in a refugee camp for 4 years. And USAID, you talked about helping to keep you alive. We know. So
let's stop a minute. You see the setup? This is about the things USAID has done that are outrageous, the amount of money it's wasting. She could say the same thing about UNRWA. You told us about the time you were in a refugee camp and how UNRWA brought you some food and how you relied on UNRWA. Meanwhile, it's filled with terrorists. Now, obviously, USAID is not filled with terrorists, but it funds elements within countries that are violent, that hate America. They're pushing an agenda. It's interesting. There's no graphic of all the things that Elon Musk and his crowd have uncovered and why they want to get rid of it. And then we have this massive debt. There's no discussion about, well, you got to start somewhere. This seems like a good place. Where else you want to start? And this is the problem with the media today. They're stupid and they're ideological Democrats. Go ahead.
We'll come to some kind of hearing and decision perhaps on what happens to all those government workers. Are the courts the
Let
main...
me ask you something, Margaret. Did you care about all those private sector workers during the pandemic when the blue states were forcing them all out of jobs? Did that upset you for 1 second? Did you say anything? How come you're not discussing what took place at USAID? The new discoveries that took place at USAID. You're not even curious, let alone interested. You're not even curious. We just want the anecdotal information from a Jew hater, an American hater, a Marxist Islamist about her own experiences. I'm not even interested in the answer. I just wanted to show you how it works. How it works. Cut 5, go.
Do you expect Congress to actually authorize the president to dismantle and consolidate USAID?
Now, let's stop a second. I'll tell you what's interesting. She takes the assumption that he has to have Congress do it. Again, experience matters. When I served in the Reagan administration, the decision was we need to get rid of this agency called Action. So what do we do with it? Well, you don't have to actually get rid of it to get rid of it. It can be subsumed or incorporated into another entity, which is essentially what happened. And you can have a restructuring. You don't need Congress's approval to restructure. Can you imagine? You'd never restructure anything. And, of course, that's where Margaret Brennan, the Democrat Party, the ideologues, the leftists, the Marxists, the Islamists, they don't want anything restructured. They don't want anything changed when you have a new election. This is theirs, baby. They own this. They get money pushed through their favorite causes through this. It's been kept a great secret from you and me, Mr. and Mrs. America. Now it's in the open thanks to Trump and Musk and the rest of them. And that's driving this federal judge nuts, who's overseeing now the Treasury data. You don't have a right to the data. What might you do with it? Reveal it. That's what. Well, you might reveal the names and information of the individuals. No, we won't. But if we do, you can punish us. Go ahead.
I think there's a tremendous appetite to do it again, Margaret, because
Senator
what we want
Hagerty,
to see is
pretty
alignment
sharp
of our programs with America's national security interest. USAID has been out of control. I've demanded accountability from AID. They've refused it. As an appropriator, I've asked them to be very clear about, for example, their role funding Hamas in Gaza. They would not comply. They will not tell us what they do. Now that we start to find out some of the programs that AID has been funding, if you think about it, sex change operations in Guatemala, LGBTQ programs in Serbia.
The U.S. government does not
this is so
fund
beyond
sex
the pale.
change operations or fund Hamas. You know that, though. But you sit on...
That is not true, Margaret. I couldn't get the Secretary of State. I asked him 3 times to tell me that we were not funding Hamas.
All right, let's slow down. This Margaret pulls this crap all the time, and then she's fact-checked, and she's proved to be a liar time and time again. This senator comes in, he's armed to the teeth with the information. And this is the other problem. To create static and confusion, the American people, all 7 of them who are watching this damn thing. Now, you know they don't do that. No, we don't know that. We know, in fact, that they do. But the fact that they do, rather than pretend that they don't, wouldn't bother her anyway. It's okay, because we had Ilhan Omar on, and she gave us her personal experiences about it. Go ahead.
And frankly, what we found is that we've been funding as American taxpayers organizations.
Do you have any evidence that the United States government is funding?
Yeah, I do have evidence of it, Margaret. We have evidence of over $100 billion from the Biden regime, as directly and indirectly, as a result of allowing oil sales and not enforcing the sanctions. Are you not awake, Margaret? Have you not seen what's going on for 4 years? Yes. The money that flowed into Iran directly through Iraq, remember that? $10 billion at a clip. Were you awake, Margaret? Or you just a cover-up artist? Is that it? And remember the billions of dollars that were spent for hostages? Yes, with Iran. Margaret, you remember any of that? It's over $100 billion. Now there's the evidence. You're going to report it next Sunday? Are you or not? Go ahead.
Certainly, the funds that have gone to UNRWA. You saw the UNRWA members who were also Hamas members go in and attack on it.
UNRWA's part of
UNRWA funds terrorist groups, and then UNRWA is, in fact, a terrorist entity. In fact, Hamas, the terrorists, the Nazis, you may have heard of them, Brennan, they used UNRWA facilities. In fact, UNRWA staffers were involved on October 7th, Margaret. Are you not aware of any of that? Why are you covering up for terrorists? Why are you bringing on a Jew-hating, American-hating anti-Semite on your program, Margaret? What the hell happened? CBS and Face the Nation. Why are you so loathsome? Go ahead.
Supporting terrorist groups. And if you look at what UNRWA has done, it's been so counter to our national interest. It's unbelievable that we would fund it.
Wow. Does it sound like she's a journalist, America, under any definition of journalism? Does it sound like she wants to get the facts? In comes Jew hater, America hater, Muslim, Islamist, Marxist. Pats her on the head. Tell us about your experiences. This senator comes in. She's a bulldog. Yeah, what about this? There's no evidence. There's $100 billion in evidence. Pretty sick, don't you think, America? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
We're here, and you're not going to believe this story, ladies and gentlemen, with Julia Wax. She is a law student at Georgetown. That's Georgetown Law. Julia, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So tell us of what wonderful types of things are going on there and the great, profound speakers that they're inviting over there.
So tomorrow, until it was canceled due to quote-unquote weather, and I'll explain why in quotes in a second, Georgetown Law was going to be hosting a convicted terrorist on our campus. He was involved in the murder of Rena Schnurb in 2019 and is affiliated with a PFLP terrorist organization, which is a designated TRO. And as of last night, the Law Students for Justice in Palestine group on our campus posted that the event was canceled due to weather. But the university didn't notify us of this. It wasn't listed in any email. No student has any idea if the university was involved in this. It was just a statement that they posted on Instagram.
Now, the woman who was murdered, can you repeat her name and tell us what happened to her?
Yes, her name was Rena Schnurb. And Rena was hiking with her family when a bomb was detonated and killed her and injured both her father and her brother. And the man involved knew about this bomb, allegedly had a role in the creations or the getting of this bomb, and he was paid 70,000 shekels by the PLO.
So this woman is murdered. Was he convicted, this terrorist?
He was convicted of failure to report.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the plea deal that he took. However, they had other information about his involvement.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of his plea agreement, he admitted to being a member of the PFLP, which is a designated terrorist organization and has ties to other terrorist organizations.
Yeah, has killed people.
Yes.
Now, he was invited by one of these little terrorist front groups, in my humble opinion, and the university gave its rubber stamp to it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It took me looking at a flyer on campus and wondering why he was arrested in the first place, because it was advertised as Palestinian political prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
And I did some background research, and I searched Israeli media, and the first thing to pop up when I searched Israeli media was that he was a terrorist.
Now, what's the name of this on-campus group that was bringing him in again?
LSJP, Law Students for Justice in Palestine.
Hold on, I'm looking it up. Is that part of Students for Justice in Palestine?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
It's the same group, just on the law campus.
And we know that's a huge organization that's backed by the most radical type of really Jew haters, Israel haters, I would argue even America haters. They back the BDS movement. They're involved in that sort of thing. And so they were pushing it, and it was sanctioned by the law school and by the general school of Georgetown?
So it wasn't necessarily even sanctioned. We just found out recently through an insider source, and the school has not released this statement publicly, but to inside sources, that they conveyed to the student organization, Law Students for Justice in Palestine, that they need to have the event with this terrorist postponed due to security investigations. They didn't even cancel it. They didn't even say that it was because that this man is a convicted terrorist. And they didn't even notify the students who have been leading the charge on this. We got this through an insider source. That's all we know.
Now I'm reading here from the
in Palestine.
Yeah.
Pardon. They had posted on their Instagram story that it was canceled due to weather.
Okay. Now I'm reading here in the New York Sun. Ribhi Karaja was the person's name, right? Spent 3.5 years in an Israeli prison for his involvement in the roadside killing of a 17-year-old Israeli woman, so she was a teenager. And students at Georgetown were given the opportunity to dine with this convicted terrorist, Students for Justice, a chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine. She's a member of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which is one of the motherships, which is a designated terrorist organization. And basically, they've used the weather right now to duck this for temporarily, right? But it's not permanently banned, is it?
So I don't even know if they use the weather. It's not permanently banned.
So she may show up, you're saying?
He could still show up. They only said it was postponed. Mm-hmm. And, it should not take a student pleading to the leader of a foreign nation. I spoke with Bibi Netanyahu on Friday about this issue to get this convicted terrorist removed from our campus. I was able to give him a speech about this, and he was appalled.
I'm not sure he has any power to remove somebody from an American campus, but the American campus leadership has the power to do it. Have you been in touch with them by writing or text or conversation? And what have they said?
We've written to members of Congress who are also appalled.
No, but I'm asking about the university, not members of Congress.
They have not really said anything other than they're looking into the issue and that they're investigating it. And up until today, when, we've got this from this insider source, we've had nothing other than they're seriously looking into it. That's all they've said to us.
I mean, what's to look into? It took me 3 minutes to find out all I needed to know about this guy.
That's the question I have.
Okay, and you asked a while ago, and they haven't gotten back to you, correct?
Every time I've emailed them, the response I've gotten is, we're looking into this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, keep us informed about it. When they're done looking into it, we'd like to know what they found when they're looking into it. Have you offered to assist them with looking into it? Maybe you should. They're a little slow.
I've given them the sentencing documents from Karaja. I've sent them all of my sources, and that's all the response we've gotten, is that they're looking into this.
So you're at Georgetown Law School. I have a couple more quick questions for you after the break. You're at Georgetown Law School. This entity is on the law school campus. You're speaking out against what they're doing. I'm just curious to know about how you're treated in that law school, if you're a pariah or what the deal is. We'll be right back.
Mark the pen. The thunder on the right. Call in now. 877-381-3811.
Julia Wax is a student at Georgetown Law School and minding her own business. Then she finds out that a convicted terrorist has been invited to have dinner with students and to speak to students by a front organization with the Students for Justice in Palestine. And, excuse me, I just sneezed to the truth. And the administration at Georgetown Law and Georgetown overall doesn't seem to be very concerned about it. There's supposed to be a weather event. I think they call it snow here tomorrow. And so this group puts out a statement that it's been postponed, which does not mean canceled. Nobody's heard from the administration. Certainly Julia has not. So, Julia, my question is, you're on campus there. How are people treating you? Are they ignoring you, or it's not a problem, or what?
After October 7th, a lot of my relationships with friends and the school changed. I mean, I had students telling me that Hamas doesn't kill babies. LSJP released a statement that October 7th was an act of justified resistance. Students in a student group had said that they physically threatened students who openly supported Zionism or any kind of conservatism ideology. There was a student who had said that she was going to pug or slunch a student for drinking Starbucks or eating Chick-fil-A on campus, and that violent resistance is a justified means of resistance. And each time that I've gone... Can
I stop you one second? What does Starbucks have to do with anything? I don't get that one.
Because money from Starbucks somehow gets back to Israel. And that's supporting Zionism.
I didn't know that. And
Chick-fil-A, because Chick-fil-A is an organization that has religious values.
Christian. Yep.
Yes.
So you're on campus, and so you've lost a lot of friends. Do other people say anything to you? Yep.
I mean, someone had told me that in class one day that Hamas doesn't kill babies. I mean, I have another friend at the undergraduate school who was told that she could go kill herself. These are incidences that occur, and the administration, when we go to them, it's kind of just a neither here nor there. They claim the First Amendment. They claim free speech.
Now, people are threatening you. I can tell you that's not free speech. Hate crimes are not free speech. Threatening you or creating a very hostile learning environment, that's not free speech. They know that. That's called intimidation.
I would agree with you. And, I mean, especially in regards to the statements about Chick-fil-A and Starbucks, I was really concerned about those. And I went to the administration with those, and they said they would look into it. I spoke with...
By the way, they're busy looking into a lot, aren't they? All they do is look into it. They never give you an answer.
No, I mean, here I am 2 months later after that incident with, no response on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, is there student government there? And let me guess, the student government's hard left?
Yes. The student government, there's a student government as well. They actually just passed a movement that almost seems somewhat pre-BDS, so to speak, actually, back in the fall. And that was basically them saying that Georgetown should publish everywhere that they're investing in, because they want to see where their money is, quote unquote, being invested, so students can see if it's, supporting any foreign war crimes or slavery or, violating any international law aspects. But when we look at this document and we look at what it really is, this is always the first step in BDS, because these people, they say that Israel acting in self-defense is an international crime.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the next phalanx of lawyers. Isn't that going to be swell? What kind of law do you think you're going to get into?
I'm thinking constitutional, or I'd like to be a prosecutor one day. Those are the two avenues that I'm exploring currently. Very,
very good. All right. Well, we appreciate it. If this guy comes back, or you hear that he's coming back, let Mr. Producer know, and we'll get on it. Okay.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
I'm not looking into it. We're going to deal with it if we need to. You get my point. So,
yep, I do.
You take care. Thank you. You're very brave. We appreciate you. And so that's what people on campus are having to deal with, kids on campus are having to deal with. I mean, patriotic kids. The other kids are just, they're rampaging, if not physically, intellectually, destroying every aspect of academic freedom and trying to impose their will. But that's the nature of Islamism. That's the ideology of Islamism. When you don't believe in the Enlightenment, when you've never gone through the Reformation, you are a throwback to the 9th century or earlier. Actually, the 7th century, I would argue, but either one seems to me bad enough. But that's where we are. You've heard of Jamie Raskin. Jamie Raskin is a POS. You know what that means, Mr. Producer? A progressive on steroids. What did you think it meant? And by the way, he's a guy who hates America, hates the Constitution, hates capitalism, but runs around and pretends he doesn't. And he has his finger in every one of these events, and they just will not give up on Trump because they're Stalinists. Basically, that's what they are. And so he's on MSNBC, so you can see MSNBC and CNN and Face the Nation and Meet the Press. You can see the kind of guests they have on. It's the conga line. They just keep running through them. It's like a loop. And so they bring this jackass on who has an IQ below a cucumber. Yes. But they pretend he's smart. He was a professor. Oh, excuse me. He's also a coward. He won't come on this program. The guy will go everywhere, but he won't come here. Can't say I blame him. But I'd love just one of these bastards to come on here. I really would. So here's Jamie on Friday on MSNBC. Cut 6, go.
And so if the courts move with dispatch, they might be able to prevent a lot of damage from being inflicted. But
yes, that Trump's inflicting a lot of damage, offering early retirement to federal workers, trying to freeze the most radical and objective programming and funding in order to take a look at it, because a lot of it was spent near the end of the Biden regime. Yes. Trying to get rid of assaults, really. on women in prisons by moving transgendered, a.k.a. men, back to the men's facility. But don't worry, Royce Lambert's there to protect those men, don't you? They say they're women, then they're women. That's the way it is. Oh, okay, sorry. The new biology, the new science, I guess. God, what will the people think when we're ancient in the future? You know, what are these people, nuts? They actually have judges ruling like this? That's right. And how dare Donald Trump, how dare he even give a thought about reorganizing the federal government? How dare he? So you can see the cabal in the media, the activist judges, the Trump-hating judges. You can see it all. Then you got Jamie Raskin out there. Of course, he's going to turn this into class warfare. Listen to this. Go ahead.
That's what's going on here. We've got the wealthiest man in the world who cannot be president because he was born in apartheid South Africa and then made his way to Canada and then to America.
Right, slow down. Born in apartheid South Africa. What does apartheid South Africa have to do with Elon Musk, who had nothing to do with apartheid South Africa? He was born there. How is it that Raskin would never say about a Palestinian born in Gaza who was born in terrorist Hamas-controlled Gaza? He would never say that, would he, Mr. Producer? No, I don't think so. Because this guy knows I'm on to him. He knows I know who his father was. He knows I've studied this whole IPS crap that they founded and their links to the Soviet Union. He knows this. He knows I know who he is. He won't come on this show because he won't be able to answer. He'll be stuttering around like he's Kamala Harris in pants. That's right. Because Jamie Raskin doesn't want to be exposed. So he can go on MSNBC and CNN and Deface the Nation and Meet the Press. He can go on all these programs. He's not going to be pressed. Just like Ilhan Omar is actually invited on Deface the Nation by Margaret Brennan, despite the fact that she's a out-of-the-closet Jew hater, America hater, the worst of the low-life worst. And they're not going to confront her on that. No, they bring her on to push their agenda. Tell us about your experience with U.S. aid, would you? They bring Senator Haggerty on there. Let me tell you about the experience people have had with UNRWA. We're not talking about UNRWA. Right, Margaret? It's how you run your damn show. But I've got more. Did you know that Donald Trump and the Republicans are trying to destroy Social Security? Even though Donald Trump says over and over again, don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it. It doesn't matter, folks. These people have learned from the best. They've learned from the best fascists and Marxists, autocrats of all kinds. They've learned the big lie. They've learned repetition. They live and breathe tyranny. That's who they are. That's what they are. So they dug up Martin O'Malley. Remember this jerk? He had been mayor of Baltimore and then governor of Maryland, and he went crossways with BLM. He said, all lives matter. No, they don't. No, it's Black Lives Matter. Those are the only lives that matter. That's right. Oh, I'm sorry. Remember, he apologized? He got on hand and knee. And he apologized. Oh, I'm sorry. I was so insensitive. Listen to this. Cut 7, go.
One of the bright line rules that we had here when I had the honor to lead these 70,000 men and women was that this is personal data. This is private data. This is every man and woman in America from their very
So here's the problem. What they're looking into is the corruption at the Social Security Administration, that illegal aliens are getting Social Security. Some people are getting 2 or 3 checks and ripping the system off. That it is draining you, the people on Social Security, you people paying into Social Security, of your hard-earned resources. So they're trying to look into it. So Martin O'Malley, being the low-life, low-IQ puke that he is, he's trying to turn this into, look what they're trying to do. They want to get their hands on your Social Security. Look what they're actually defending the destruction of Social Security, the rip-off of Social Security, stealing from Social Security. They don't even want Musk and the gang to look at it. Go ahead.
Earnings for the benefits they work a lifetime for. That is personal data, and it was a fireable offense.
Nobody's taking people's personal data. They're trying to figure out if everybody on Social Security is supposed to belong on Social Security. Look, folks, here's the deal. We have millions of illegal aliens in there. Some of them are known, some of them aren't known. They're on the welfare system. Many are playing the system. They're taking Social Security and Medicare. They're not allowed to take Social Security and Medicare. Trump's trying to get to the bottom of it. But this is the new Democrat Party constituency. They want them to become Democrats, first citizens, then Democrats, their children's Democrats, so they can never lose an election. This is about Martin O'Malley, power hungry. This is about the Democrat Party, power hungry. They don't give a crap about Social Security. Then they drag this Kwesi Mfume in, a hands-off Social Security rally. They call it a hands-off Social Security rally. These people are evil. When Trump and his team are trying to get to the bottom of how fraud is being committed against you, Social Security recipients and future recipients, and people paying into Social Security. You can't look at that data. There must be a crap load of it. There must be a ton of fraud in Social Security. People stealing from it. People on it multiple times. Illegal aliens on it. Or the Democrats wouldn't be jumping up and down like this, would they? We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
So in our Constitution, I'm not asking about subsequent Supreme Court decisions like Marbury versus Madison. I'm not asking. The Constitution itself, which obviously predates Supreme Court decisions. There is no judicial review. Judicial review is an implied power out of necessity, but it's not a stated affirmative power in the Constitution. And what about the vast bureaucracy? That's not in the Constitution either. You know what is in the Constitution, America? The President of the United States. The executive branch. That's in the Constitution. So how is it that courts and the bureaucracy can collude where there's not even a federal statute to claim that the Constitution empowers the judges to effectively take over aspects of the executive branch functioning? Where did that come from? Yeah, we have a constitutional problem. Yeah, Bill Maher, we have a post-constitutional period. I've been calling it for 2 decades, but not for the reasons you leftists think. Because of you leftists, that's why. Here's this guy, Andy Kim, out of New Jersey. Meet the depressed. Another genius, Kristen Welker. Cut 9, go.
Are you prepared to shut down the government, to join Democratic colleagues who want to stand in the way of keeping the government open?
Well, you have to look at what the Trump administration is doing right now.
The answer is yes. So they're saying they're going to shut down the government. Then you have Democrats saying Trump wants to shut down the government. I got to stay on top of this to clear this up so we, the American people, know exactly what's going on. They're playing both sides of the aisle. Well, it's great to be back. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, our brothers and sisters in Israel. We stand with you all. And, of course, you, the great American people, thanks for being here. And I'll see you tomorrow.